Hey there, this is Mocha Mommy, just bringing you, want to just give you guys a little bit of a quick, just a little quick dialogue about what's been happening with the Kirk Franklin situation. Now, what I am grateful for is how much support people have brought forth, saying how wrong it was for his adult son, who is not quite financially independent, who clearly has some mental health challenges, how wrong it was. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the support Kirk Franklin has of his fan base and of the public, of his friends who have stood up to support him, Ricky Smiley in particular, Tamron Hall for just giving Kirk Franklin a platform to really be able to address and talk about the real situation, about the challenges he's been experiencing with his adult son. Now, with that being said, when we're listening to this dialogue on YouTube, right, and Black women get out of pocket with these adult men, whether they be sons, employees, students that we've had, how much compassion do we get? How much compassion do we get? Now, some of you guys may know that I was a military officer at one point in my career. The military is what helped me get my education. They paid for it, you know. I had went to Howard University on an ROTC scholarship. So that meant I had an obligation to the United States Army to pay them back in service for what they fronted me for my BSN, my Bachelor of Nursing. Now, a lot of the difficulty that I had with leadership, because here, again, you're 21 years old and you're sometimes a platoon leader or you are in this leadership position. And a lot of times the people who are your subordinates are your age too. Some of them are in their late teens, early 20s, or older than you. But I just kind of noticed how much we were expected to tolerate their disrespect, right? Now, one of my first experiences was being stationed overseas. I was going to be a part of the Asian Command, right? Over there, a situation that happened was pretty disturbing. Now, in some parts of Asia, prostitution is legal, okay? It is legal. I have no issues with it because it is legal. The only thing that is required is that you have authorization to be off of the post, off of the installation at the time, and that even though it is legal on the economy, you cannot engage in solicitation of these type of practices on the Army installation. So we're on the plane, okay? We're not even landed yet. And there was a group of younger Black male soldiers who were talking about how they were going to do this and how they were going to do that when they got to Asia, okay? So I say to them, you may want to be careful. I whisper to them, I made it sure that it was at a decent volume. Hey, you may want to be careful, you know, how you talk out loud. You know, I just kind of turned around in my plane seat. And then all of a sudden it starts flying. Blah, 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 jealous you, bitch, this, bitch, that, blah, 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 blah. So this is I'm a young officer at this point. I'm a butter-bar. I'm like fresh out of like my OCS class. I am a young officer at this time, okay? I'm young. And you can clearly see that I'm in my early 20s. I was 21 years old. So all of a sudden, some first sergeant at that point was like, hey, you want to be careful how you talk to a commissioned officer in the United States Army. So this first sergeant kind of stood up for me. And so now I'm being classified as the bitch, right? Because now everybody's being real, walking on eggshells around me, right? They're all talking and standing at attention and standing up and asking permission and yes, ma'am, and all, you know, because this first sergeant put them in check, right? And he was kind of letting me know, like, hey, you better make sure that your first impression is that you get these soldiers to toe the line. So, and he was absolutely right in that. And I totally respect him and his advice, because he was absolutely right. You don't want to give people an inch and have them take a yard. But at the same time, you're already seen as the bad guy. And I was just trying to give them a warning of what, maybe you might want to be a little bit more discreet. But it's just so crazy how comfortable they are coming out of pocket to call us outside of our name, not realizing that, hey, you might be in a leadership position. And so often, professional Black women are constantly called as these gatekeepers, right? We're gatekeepers and we're stopping them from succeeding, not realizing how you making us look stupid to the other leadership because you acting crazy. You're putting our careers at risk with your stupidity and your unprofessionalism. Now, wouldn't you know, a couple months later, now this is early 2000s when this has happened, okay? This is early 2000s. This is not too long after September 11th, and we are in the full swing of the Patriot Act, okay? The Patriot Act is alive and well, and you've got a lot of young, hungry JAGs, judge advocate generals who are lawyers, who are waiting to use it because they have a lot of power that they're able to wield right now. And this same group of guys now are caught on post taking pictures. In the early days of social media, we were kind of still around like the MySpace era, right? Where there wasn't like a lot of discretion on social media. There still isn't really. But basically it was found that they were bringing foreign nationals onto the installation. All right. Cambodian and Indonesian foreign nationals onto the installation. That's not the country we're in, but that's what they were doing, because these women are often the sex workers in other more developed parts of Asia, Cambodian and Indonesian. These are enemies of the United States. These are places that have Al-Qaeda camps. Now, all of a sudden, you about to hit the fan and the fury and the flame of the Patriot Act. And you want to come, oh, how can you help me? They want to come to me, can you help me? I told you from the beginning. I told you day one. I whispered to you day one. And now all of a sudden, I'm the bitch because I don't help you. What is my butter bar going to do against the Patriot Act signed by President George W. Bush himself? What am I going to do? But now all of a sudden, I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad guy, right? And this is just a primary example of how these folks will get out of pocket and then think of themselves as the victim. Kirk Franklin, to me, he deserves all the sympathy, but you know what? It brings up a lot of mothers. It brings up a lot of Black women in leadership, aunties, grandmas, teachers, counselors, who get the same level of disrespect on a daily basis. But all of a sudden, we the bitches when we get them to try to toe the line on their own behalf, to toe the line for themselves and their careers and their futures. Do you really want to feel the flame and the fury of the Patriot Act just because you can't shut your damn mouth? Right? And this is just another example of just how we get demonized for other people's bad behavior when we don't tolerate other people's bad behavior. Right? Now, again, this was just something that I had whispered to them. Like, hey, you want to be quiet about what you, I'm not judging your actions or your behavior because it's legal. But now you don't put yourself on the radar. Is it the white man's fault? Hey, I have no doubt in my mind that other white soldiers were doing the exact same thing, but you're on the radar now because you had to go out and cuss somebody out. You on the radar now because you had to be loud about it. I had experienced these types of things repeatedly through my military career, both on active duty and in reserves. You know, they try to make it seem like it's only the quote unquote Pookies and Ray Rays who are causing trouble for the entire Black community. But what I'm trying to say is that some of these educated lames, they're not much better. When we kind of talk about the crabs in the bucket, some of these educated lames are the ones with the sharpest claws. They constantly are there trying to trip you up. Like, they don't like being subject to stereotypes about what they are and who they are, right? They don't like being stereotyped, but yet they will still use those ghetto bitch stereotypes to marginalize you on your way up. But yet they want to call us gatekeepers. Yet they want to say that we are the reasons why they can't get good jobs. Let me tell you something. As someone who was in military leadership, as someone who is a civilian instructor, and someone who is in civilian leadership, one of the biggest things that hold our Black male counterparts back is the fact that Proverbs chapter 5, they squander their youth. They are very late to the game when it comes to the job market. So they don't take it very well when they're 24 years old and they have a squad leader or a platoon sergeant or a platoon commander, right? That's the same age they are or sometimes younger. Well, what were you doing at 18 and 19 when this person either enlisted or when that person enrolled in ROTC and now are commissioned? Same thing with the job market. Now, I get it. The job market can be very volatile. I know that during the part of the time where I was teaching, we were kind of coming off of the economic downturn. And so a lot of people, this was their second career. I had a lot of people coming out of retail. I had a lot of people coming out of the automotive industry. I had a lot of people coming out of manufacturing when some of the manufacturing plants here in Texas moved to Mexico. So I had to kind of help translate and help them navigate their former work experience into the medical field. I had to help low-income students who didn't have a lot of support or for math and science education so that they can meet the prerequisites for allied health careers. They maybe didn't have a lot of the professional development they needed. So I help low-income students of all races. The majority of my program was, in fact, Black women, because that's the majority of the low-income women on campus, and also nursing and allied health tends to attract mostly women. But I did have a lot of Black male students who were older. They were older. They had squandered their youth. And especially in certain markets, places like Austin and San Antonio, they're relatively young cities. The average age in the city of Austin, Texas is like 33. It's a very young city. So if you're coming in your late 30s, early 40s to be an entry-level anything, understand that you're going to be subject to job discrimination, especially if there's a lot of gaps on that resume. So when I'm telling you, like, hey, you have to have stellar grades, you may need to do some volunteer work, you may need to intern, you may need to apply for some of these entry-level positions now while you're in school and not be a full-time student, because you need to fill in those gaps. You need certain references, right? I'm not saying this to be a bossy bitch, even though that's what they made it seem like. I'm telling you this for your own good because you already have an uphill battle you're fighting. Not your Blackness, but your age. But all of a sudden, I'm wrong for saying that. Now, when all of this stuff happened with, the Texas Medical Board, and how things were getting licensed and how we were validating, I can let you know, we built I think it was 7 hospitals in 10 years along the I-35 corridor. So that was a lot of great opportunity. But at the same time, if you were not poised to take advantage of it, you're not going to get these jobs. So it's not about, hey, hospital X is opening and they're hiring a lot of positions. Now, you see the construction. And it's going to take several years, months to sometimes years for these things to be done. So get yourself together now. Have the preparedness now. Don't come to me a day late and $1 short talking about, I heard you was hooking folks up with jobs at the hospital. There's not a hookup. No, I was assisting in training licensed healthcare professionals. So don't come to me looking for a handout because I'm not the one giving them. Texas Medical Board is giving me the requirements for provisional licenses for allied health students. That's what was actually happening. But again, you want to think that I'm giving somebody something that you're not going to get, right? You think that I'm keeping you out of something. No, I'm helping qualified individuals get into positions they are qualified for. But you don't want to take the lesson. You don't want to listen. You don't want to toe the line. And I have every right as an instructor to not put incompetent people in those positions. They are life and death positions. This is life and death decisions that you have to make as an allied health professional. Even sometimes security guards and janitors are required to know CPR in some of these hospital settings. So when I say, get your stuff together by this date, because this is the date that they're hiring, opening, job fair, blah, 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 you need to be together by that date. You don't need to come to me when your bills are due and your car's about to be repossessed, expecting me to do something for you. Because that's not how it works. I'm not a gatekeeper. What I am is a front desk clerk. Okay, I can give you the key to get in from a certain time, from another certain time. But once you're locked out, and there's nothing I can do about it. Now, if Black women had all this power over who gets hired and who gets fired and who gets promoted and who doesn't, why would we not be promoting ourselves? Why would we be at the bottom of the economic totem pole? Why would we not be giving ourselves raises and promotions if we had that kind of control? You see how dumb that sounds? You want us to submit, but at the same time, you want us to hook you up? How does that sound? And it really was upsetting how you complain about how Black women have had you coddled, but then when we try to get you to toe the line, now we bitches. You see, it's like you really can't win. And I'm just really grateful for, Kirk Franklin's son showing his ass. Because trust me, what you're experiencing, the lip that you got, I guarantee you his mother got it 4 times, 5 times worse. His teachers probably got it 4 times, 5 times worse. His bosses probably got it 4 times, 6 times worse. His stepmother probably got it. You was just the last person in the line who they happened to record. This Kerrion Franklin, guarantee you this dude has been out of pocket probably his whole adult life. So, listen, there really is no winning in these situations. And, the funny thing is, as hard as I advocated for a lot of the African-American students, all of my students, as hard as I advocated for letting them use both my professional and personal network for jobs, salary negotiations, the person who replaced me was all about the dreamers because there's more money in it. All about the dreamers. So they don't even care about you. So you have all these complaints against me about what I'm not doing for you. But the person who replaced me certainly does not give a damn. Certainly does not give a damn on that collegiate level. We'll go around talking to immigrants who don't even speak English, and we'll give them a position and an opportunity before they'll give one to you. Because you decided that you want to go all of a sudden write all these complaints and say stuff. You see what I'm saying? You can't really win, right? You want to be upset on how I talk to you on the plane, right? But then when Jag comes and gets all up in your ass, now you upset, right? You want to squander your youth and not do the right thing to try to rectify it, to make that resume look right. Now, all of a sudden, it's my fault, right? You see, these adults, and I use that term real loosely, these adults got some growing up to do. Now, I'm Mocha Mommy, but I damn sure ain't your mommy. So if you don't accept my instruction, the world will beat your